Howdy, 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 this is JL for another Weekly Shonen Nonsense for July 23rd, 2023. Let's get to it. One Piece, Chapter 1088. What a turbulent end to that arc. So, we get Garp sacrificing himself. Of course, we start seeing what his philosophy is with, how he treats justice. So, justice is making sure that the youth, the future, survive while the old, have run their course and they don't really need to be saved. And of course, we see, Kobe himself reflecting the same teaching when, of course, he gets captured by Blackbeard during the events of the previous little arc with Kobe. Of course, Garp says to go and take on the actual hand of the island, and Kobe shows he can do it because apparently he's been battleship boxing just like Garp has been doing, and shows his force with honesty impact, and just destroys that hand. Like, that is insane. He basically just destroyed a mountain with his bare fist. And not to be outdone, of course, Garp then shows Galaxy Divide as he punches the actual mountain face itself. So, great stuff, and of course, all the team are happy that Kobe survived and everybody got out just in time. But of course, Garp doesn't. Being shown laying there, basically completely incapacitated, laughing all the way. Now, while this is a sad end to this arc, though, because we don't really know the fate of Garp here, we don't know if he's dead or not, though. With the way they worded it, it's sort of ambiguous, so probably still alive. His death will be a little bit more impactful. Probably won't be just here randomly. Luffy has to observe it. But that will mean that we're also entering back into Egghead. It is surrounded, the barricade has been observed, so we are in the middle of it. There is a lot of things that can come from this. There's a lot of angles this could be, shown from, where how the Straw Hats escape, what actually happens, who's really going to be the big bad for this arc. Is it going to be Saturn, or is it going to be Blackbeard? There's a lot of things that can happen, and we're hopefully going back to Egghead next week. I'm really intrigued. I'm really looking forward to it. One Piece is still peak. Addendum to the One Piece, I'm an idiot. They're off next week. Damn. But, it happens. Icehead Guild, Chapter 5. Alright, back into the action. So we're now in the fight with this murderer dude. We actually get a bit of his backstory, where apparently he trained in a super dark forest, which allowed him to be blind and murder people with boomerangs. And Gills then says, "Let me solo him." And, of course, goes on to pretty much defeat him soundly. Now, of course, there's moments where apparently he keeps, being outmaneuvered, but Gil uses his axe skills to max effort, using this kind of spin technique a little bit more. Apparently, more spins equals more force, of course, centrifugal force. And, going from, just killing Caribou to apparently killing Moose. Nice. And, of course, as round 2 seems to be getting started, no, it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, it seems like someone wanted to steal the kill here, and it tends to be a bunch of liches. I was hoping for a skeleton, darn. But either way, tree full of liches. This is going to be a fascinating follow-up here. Again, still early on, not a lot to say about the series quite yet. Haven't really gotten the themes down quite yet. So hoping it gets a little bit deeper. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's called Icehead Gill. What deep thoughts we're going to have for this? I say this now on a recording. Martial Master Asumi, Chapter 6. Well, Nito is still pissed, so the next round starts, and of course it's Kaz versus Nito, and now gives her advice to Nito, saying, just don't die. And of course, he's like, what does that mean? Immediately starts regretting it as soon as his brother punches him. It's like, I am fucked. So unfortunately, apparently his brother's a Sith now, saying fear leads to anger. And what, is he going to hate his brother by the end of this? Maybe, because unfortunately, Nito's little tackle near the middle doesn't do much, just ends up getting, grounded himself and starts getting pounded on by his brother. I wrote that, my notes to brother pounding, and it wasn't really sexual in nature. Just, thought, two brothers fighting each other makes perfect sense. But when I read it out loud, it sort of makes the entire situation a lot worse. Anyway, so point being, apparently his brother's, not coming home. That's what really Nito's angry about. Is like, yeah, just come home and visit at least once. And apparently this was just, he just gets it just long enough to get his brother into a triangle chokehold. And that's how the chapter ends. So pretty clearly, Kaz is going to get out of this. There's no real reason why he won't, break the chokehold unless, apparently we're just going to, get rid of his brother or make him an ally super early in the series, especially when he's just been this much of a dick. But, hey, whatever, just reminded me of me fighting my brother when I was a kid, so it was fun. Nui's Exorcist, Chapter 11. Alright, and we're back to the battle on the beach, and our heroes are slightly ahead. Unfortunately, the other side decides to cheat at the last minute, and not only summon a bunch of demons, but then make a barrier around themselves to, kill the demons or spirits themselves. Unfortunately, this horrifyingly backfires when they realize, well, they gathered enough to make 2 level 2s, which are like, one level 2 is 16 worth of level 1 spirits, so yeah, they kind of bit off more than they could chew, as well as they trap themselves in a barrier so they can't get out. So Gakuro goes, I gotta save them because, saving people is good in junk. Plus, also he wants to, prove that he's, good to Dad, who, died for his sake. So, of course, Gakuro breaks the barrier, but doesn't have enough power. But then Shiraha comes in with the save and actually kills the big bad demons, thus winning the contest because they were already ahead in points. And of course, then this end of the day, our boy Gakuro's gotten about 120 spirits out of 300, so he's almost there. He still has another day, and he's only below halfway, so it's gonna be difficult. It ends the chapter with a little really reconciliation with Tsujita, the girl who was making fun of him last chapter. Which, just gonna point this out, she was prickly last chapter, like teasing him, making fun of him, mocking him, and now in this chapter, at the end, after he's saved her life, or at least assisted in saving her life, really with Shira, but regardless, he saves her life, and then she starts being a little less prickly, being demure and kind of soft-spoken around him. Dear Lord, they actually made a tsundere that is a tsundere. Little history lesson. Tsundere is literally meaning, prickly at first, loving afterwards. The problem is modern tsundere tends to fill in the archetype as a literal girl who's just not willing to be honest with her emotions and instead is prickly by choice. So you get that, like, I don't like you or anything, babaka thing. But in this, it's actually tsundere. She's prickly at first, she has no showing of any kind of romantic interest in him, and then after he does something, worthwhile, saving her life, or at least, making up for her fuck up, she's, very loving, and she doesn't try to hide that. Now, granted, this is just the beginning of this relationship, but clearly that's a better reading of tsundere than it has been in years, like decades even. People forget what this started as, so good on this. But still, this is a harem series. I'm just going to lay this out again. This is a fucking harem series. There is no two bones about it. They are just collecting girls, and they're going to be, merchandisable, I guess. Either way, it was fun, It's a comic. My Girlfriend Gives Me Goosebumps, Chapter 11. Time for some ball sports. Alright, so we got dodgeball here between Oki and Takano. So it's popular girl versus girlfriend. And of course it's, typical manga sports thing. We have special names being used for the basic maneuvers of the game. And strangely enough, Takano loses, but seemingly on purpose, taking a pretty devastating hit to the hand and very clearly damaging her finger, not faking the injury, actually taking the hit. Apparently, she was doing this to not only garner the praise of the crowd and pity of the crowd, but also to get the attention of her boyfriend, taking the eyes off of Oki for even just a moment. So Oki is feeling a little shaken by that. Unfortunately, Takano basically regrets this immediately afterwards when, at the after party, she loses the chance to eat, be fed food by her boyfriend because her wrong hand got hit. Well, darn. It's a cute comic still. Again, I like Oki being this kind of soft villain. Wish she was a little bit more aggressive and maybe a little bit more mean girly, but hey, still some upward momentum. Looking forward to see where this goes. So, Do Retry, Chapter 12. Alright, so let's throw some more Bakuju Tengen. Honestly, I like the English name a little bit better. Waterfall Taker, Rock Breaker is a really killer sounding move. Even though it's basically just a, cross counter with, a head twist. Either way, unfortunately, Nijimura knows the move too. But unfortunately, through Okami's observations, he hasn't really thrown a punch himself in earnest. He's only ever reacted to battle rather than actually, taking part of it himself. He doesn't, punch unless being punched. And this, unfortunately, leads into what he might be actually suffering from, which is PTSD. Yeah, so seeing all your friends murdered in front of you would pretty much put you in odds with with reality, and clearly he's unfortunately driven insane and ran as fast as he could. And unfortunately, he's not treating himself quite well. He still has the shakes and shivers because he's still afraid. He's still terrified. But instead, he takes, not only suppressants to, stop the shaking, but apparently he's also been, going after lesser boxers, not to necessarily, help elevate them, but rather just beat them up in order to make himself feel better. So, yeah, this is unfortunately a really tough battle, though, because, of course, Okami really doesn't have a counter quite yet, but he's apparently decided to learn in the heat of battle. And thus, at the very end, we see his father's image kind of floating behind him, wanting to teach Nijimura the true meaning of heart. So, it's still in the middle of the match. I really don't see the next chapter being not being the end, because, I don't think this should be going on more than 3 chapters. I want to move on to the next fight. Come on. Nijimura is just, a broken man. It really shouldn't be that hard to, put him down and move on. Kill Blue, Chapter 14. Alright, time for some more ball sports. Of course, now the limiters are off. Tenma is not taking any more shit and immediately barrels through his opponents and gets a goal, meaning it's 1 versus nothing at the halfway mark. But Ogami, not being deterred, decides, hey guys, let me solo him. And actually holding his own. And starts to, reflect on his youth, as he used to compete a lot, but now, as he's grown older, he's stopped competing really and more just trying to maintain consistency. So he can't go overboard, but he can't be underboard either. And, of course, Tenma has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He just sees a, kid who just entered middle school. But, of course, this leads to Ogami basically going, no, not you. You insulted my home ec team. I ain't having it. And then overpowers him to get a goal, or at least a shot on goal. We actually haven't seen the goal. It was not declared, but more or less it's going to be 1 versus 1, and it's anybody's game. Still, fun stuff. I really like the kind of retrospective look at youth from an older perspective like this. Just yeah, man, I used to do this kind of thing, but now I'm able to do it again with this new form. So there is a positive to this. But clearly he wants to be an old man again. Mostly because of the logistics. Just because he's younger doesn't mean he's necessarily younger in age in general. His body might have just regressed, which doesn't necessarily mean he's going to grow necessarily, nor does it mean he lost those years he's gained over time. So he may still die he's in 30 years rather than in at this point 50. So again, looking forward to the next chapter. Tenmaku Cinema, Chapter 15. Snacks and Rough Cuts. Alright, this chapter begins with our boys going through the movie a bit with rough editing, only to find they need some better music, or just music in general. Fortunately, while Hajime wanted to make this movie with some general, ambient sounds, unfortunately, he just needs the scenes to pop a little bit more. So he gets Akitsu to do the actual music, forcing him to do the actual songs through a Tchaikovsky reference. Anyway, the boys begin their movie music making, and shows that Ikitsu is actually wanting to make it. He is passionate about making music. He just maybe not as passionate as Hajime is about movies. And it shows that they are friends. Hajime is really rubbing off on Akitsu and his, own love of music. And the chapter ends with music being done, and we're set to make the final scene at the beach. So in other words, beach episode number 2. More girl in bikini. More underage girl in bikini. I'm immediately regretting this. Fabricant 100, Chapter 31. You must self-sacrifice in order to stop other self-sacrifices. Yeah, the battle is over. The unknown number, actually, I don't think they actually gave this one a number, is completely killed. Her core is destroyed. And apparently, Ayako dies. I did not see that coming. Apparently, she took a mortal blow. Even with all her blood spilling out, she's still able to sit up and talk, and apparently gives a map that she redrew with her own blood towards where number 1 is hiding. So, and just as her end of her life, number 100 gives her a little bit of levity, where apparently the difference between humans and fabricants is the idea of sacrifice. Giving something up for somebody else who isn't you. So, downer ending for Ayako, to be honest. Kind of feel bad that she goes. Or at least it's implied that she goes. Don't know. Chapter kind of ended on an ambiguous note, mostly because it jumped to number 1, who apparently has now revived number 99. And, of course, we see number 99 flex by having ice powers. So we gotta, clear next big fight is going to be between number 99 and number 100, fire versus ice. So I really hope it's not going to be running towards an ending. I like the series for what it does. It's getting close, though, because we know the location of the big bad. We see his biggest enforcer coming to life. Clearly, it's going to be really number 1 versus Yao. So a little bit up in the air, to be honest, like where this series is going to go with how it's going to kind of move forward. Cypher Academy, Chapter 33. Another color cover. God fucking damn it. Anyway, so apparently the tag match begins. Anonymous goes and apparently kites a bunch of enemies in order to steal away their tails. And, soundly beats them, able to solve all their makeshift puzzles in about, 10 seconds. But not a flat 10 seconds. I see you there. Either way, apparently her plan is just kind of go out in the field, take as many slugs out as possible, thin the herd of the enemies they have to defeat, and then hide in their shelter. But in her case, Anonymous is apparently deciding, no, I'm going to also make you, the enemies I just captured, capture your enemies as well, to make sure that we don't have any kind of trouble, when I'm getting back to base. Using slave labor. Nice, these are our heroes. And of course, this then leads us to Iroha kind of going, yeah, all of our teammates are pretty strong, except for the rich girl who apparently doesn't know what the game tag is. So, I'm calling bullshit. So, again, the series gives me a lot of ways to call bullshit, but this series has pulled out a lot of things for these puzzles, these, different little, minute details about facts and history and numbers and math that any 16-year-old Japanese kid wouldn't know, just offhand. It's pulling references the author found something on Wikipedia the other day and went, oh, I need to add this to my comic now. And, clearly, wants to make all of his kids seem intelligent. And yet the rich girl doesn't know what tag is. This is fucking dumb. Ugh. Hate reading the series is hard, because it gets really bad. And it's gonna get another volume at least. Oh god. The Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins, Chapter 34. So, no cutaway, no anything. We just go straight into Soda and his new family. And they are a new family, even if they aren't actually, related at all by blood or by marriage. Apparently, they're just 3 other people who met each other because of their own damage and problems at home. Being basically either familyless or fatherless, or just abandoning the family in the case of Soda. And, of course, Tsubasa's dumbfounded. He's completely confused by the entire affair. Doesn't understand at all, how people who aren't related or not married to each other can coexist like this in such harmony. And it shows that apparently he doesn't know what a found family is and how good it can be. Because as the comic keeps going forward and the chapter keeps moving on, we start getting flashes of Soda's and Tsubasa's own family, supercut with the current reality where Tsubasa's getting what he wants out of his family from people he doesn't even know. The only person he's related to is Soda. In fact, they even celebrate his birthday with him, much unlike his own family, who would probably, yell and scream at each other or hold up false facades. And the chapter ends with a flipped up panel of, all this newfound family being a found family. Now, there can be implications for this. It could be like, showing a dark, twist that's about to happen in the next chapter, or it could also be Tsubasa's own perspective being flipped on its head. Being related, being married, being forced to be together is not necessarily the thing that brings you happiness. It isn't what makes an actual family a family, which is a great lesson to be learned. That One Piece has made a million times already, but regardless, still good to kind of reinforce that messaging. And unfortunately, it feels like the series is slowly wrapping up here, or at least getting to a final point here soon, which makes me upset that Cypher Academy lives while Ichinose Families dies. Damn. Akane Banashi, Chapter 71. I don't get it. I don't know why the quality of the Shonen Jump page is so bad. These images are so blurry. Alright, so changing time continues, and we start getting the perspective of not only Akane telling the story, but also the crowd and the critics kind of commenting on it. Specifically, the critics going, wow, she's able to make this story three-dimensional, able to breathe life into these characters in a way that isn't just for jokes, but to make sure that they're, expanding what they are as well. Which is actually much against, Akane's actual nin, her own way of doing things. Because that's how her dad rolls. But she's kind of working around this, trying to, balance herself versus these abilities she's not used to, which is working for her. She's taking a major gambit and grabbing hold of a power that is unknown and unrivaled amongst all these other performers. She really should have been with another school, but she's showing that she's supposed to be with her current master. And of course, this is no more evident than seeing her father at the end crying, just absorbing her performance, seeing what she can do as the Rakugo that he could probably never be himself. It is gut-wrenching. This hit me so hard. It works too well. I'm in awe. Great chapter. Not much more to be said on this. Blue Box, Chapter 110. Nothing much, just birthday dinner with the girlfriend in the house alone. So, of course, Chinatsu's cooking and tells Taiki to go and change. Taiki does, but then he comes back and says, hey, let's cook together, let's bond. And that works, for the most part. They have a cute little moment of him grabbing her arm as they save some ketchup from falling onto the actual rice. And then he burns the rice, so he gets kicked out. And of course, then she shows her own cute side with trying to draw, Taiki holding his racket with ketchup and only apparently depicting a boy with a bug net. And then, of course, she also does another little cute thing where she interviews him, talking about, like, now you're 16, what are you going to do next? And he's like, I'm going to go for nationals. And then she soft throws her own frustrations at him by going, okay, so when are you going to start calling your girlfriend by her name? Like, when are you going to do that? Why do you keep calling her senpai? And, this throws a loop into his plans here. So, of course, he struggles and he can't stop from calling her senpai, but he's able to at least get her first name right, Chinatsu. And she makes no effort, just immediately says Taiki, because that's what she's been wanting to do this entire time. Do better, Taiki. Come on, man. Call her by her name. She can do it for you. Just say Chinatsu. Senpai. Damn it. Witch Watch, Chapter 118. Fran Rescue Party to the rescue. Again. Anyway, so, of course, Fran and Jekyll are here to save Miharu. Miharu getting a little bit of a boost from not only taking a bit of Jekyll's power, but also from drinks. But, of course, then Jekyll's like, hold on, let me soul her. And of course he tries, and then fails. Unfortunately, he can't actually defeat her. He's already weakened by the fact that you get his vitality taken away. But then Fran saves him and takes the actual attack herself, which reveals the secret. Apparently, she uses Deathwink. Apparently, her powers can manifest by her blinking with using the actual sword swing to mimic it, to hide the blow, which then of course gets defeated with pocket sand. Of course, they capture her, put the blindfold on her, and then she has a little bit of a heart-to-heart with the realization that maybe her parents were really just afraid for her safety, not just trying to hide her away, because blinking at all could trigger the spell and cause massive amounts of damage, and probably hurt people she probably likes. So it ends with her kind of leaving the bandana on, not taking it off because maybe she does need it on for the moment. Anyway, this ends the first of the battles here, the 4 battles currently. So we're probably going to be jumping to another one next. Hopefully it's going to be either... it's going to probably be Khan or Kago. I'm hoping Khan because we still don't know anything about his fight. We don't know who that guy is. We have a vague understanding of his powers, but don't quite know what he's capable of or what his story is. We know the other guy's stories, but not his yet. So that's just my wish here. Also, I like Khan. Is it wrong to like Khan? Sakamoto Days, Chapter 128. Not a lot of things happened in this chapter. I think we're still going through the cooldown from the Hyo fight here last, especially considering now we have a notification to Nagumo that Hyo is dead, and he apparently fires one up in the air for his homie. And we kind of cut really quickly to our boys running toward the facility where Slur is, with apparently Heisuke, calling and saying he's going to be on his way with emoticons, which is it's clearly not Heisuke. It's somebody else, probably the other assassin dude. But of course, this then leads to some build up for the rematches with Gaku and Slur, revealing, remember Slur has this big ass sword? Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that. And then we get into a bit of Slur's motives. Our dear-headed friend questions him about why he wants to destroy the JAA and then not replace it. He's just going to destroy the JAA and allow criminals and assassins to just do whatever they want, not having regulations or rules, which could hurt civilians or possibly get targets that aren't really good targets, just random people. So it's a bit up in the air what he really wants to do and why he's just destroying the system itself and not replacing it. But we have to put that on hold because Akira walks into the room. And Akira wants to know why he killed her aunt. And apparently Slur is shocked by just the sight of her, actually thinking she's Rion for a second, which actually shows that, good family resemblance. But also makes me question, what is Rion actually doing? Because she apparently might still be alive out there, or at least her information's being used by somebody. So, don't know what's going on, but that's how it goes with these Sakamoto days. Ayakashi Triangle, Chapter 137. Sigh. It was doing so well. I mean, we have our team running away, but then Garaku comes with a save. He summons a cool dragon, and then he also summons a cool skeleton to fight the curse. And they're duking it out. It's really cool. And then we cut to Soga versus a succubus who takes her shirt off. Well, I mean, Soga takes care of her pretty quickly, but of course, still smut. Come on, guys. Really? But anyway, of course, Soga apparently takes her down pretty easily because apparently training with Matsuri has done really well. He's lost his weakness to women, though he probably is still weak to one woman, man, Kohai. Anyway, of course, then, another Kohai shows up with Ryo, who apparently decides, no. Instead of me going to there, we're going to be commissioning you to run across the city to give Matsuri a power-up. So Sogo goes, and just like last chapter, we have a possible hero character coming in for the save, yet again. I mean, I know there's, this is a smutty series. It's, it's about, showing that TNA, but come on, guys. you had something cool going. Could he have just pulled back maybe just once, just for 1 week? Come on, man. At least she wasn't underage, though. Undead Unluck, Chapter 168. Alright, so the tournament is over. Everything's wrapped up. Mui's brother is saved. Shen is still alive thanks to half a pill. And, everybody's gearing up to get going. But then we find that apparently Fuko has been fighting Feng off screen in order to try to recruit him. And of course, because, Shen got up, Feng decides to run off, and she's damn, time to cheat. So she tries to use untruth to get Feng to come along, but Feng just seems to have come along out of, curiosity. What's, the next mission's going to be hard for Fuko? I want to see what makes this so difficult for her. And we get back to base, just kind of, reiterate what's at stake here and what's the next goal, because we need to get back our boys. And yeah, that full page spread of all the people we need to get back, and all of them there, Andy is not prominent. He's off to the side. He was our main character for a good 100 or so chapters, and now he's just kind of off to the side there. It's fascinating. I want to see where this goes and what the reveal of Andy will be. Hopefully it's soon. But not too soon, as the next arc begins with a difficult battle for Feng. He's not ready for this. He's not ready to be a PE teacher. Yeah, apparently our team is now getting Chikara back, good old Unmove. But we're trying to avoid his tragedy. And to do this, we decided to infiltrate an entire high school as both students and faculty. Man, Feng just shouting bloody murder to Fuko at the end of this chapter was beautiful. And he deserves it, the prick. So, anyway, still, this series can get cliche at points. We have got a tournament arc and a war arc, and now we're getting a high school arc. It's very cliche. But, Undead Unluck does it in a way that just is both comedic, beautiful, and action packed. So looking forward to this next arc. It's so funny. My Hero Academia, chapter 395. This was a bit of a divisive chapter. Let me just go through the basics. Of course, Sadman Parade is over. Twice is fully gone as the clones go away, and revealing that Ochiko is dying. Toga's standing over her slowly bleeding out corpse, and Toga decides to do a blood transfer by injecting herself with some of Ochiko's blood, becoming her, and then performing a blood transfusion in order to give her blood. Give Ochiko her own blood, because that's how Toga works. When she transforms into that person, so it's literally her own blood that she's getting. And we get a tearful acceptance and of gratitude toward Ochiko from Toga, and it ends with Toga collapsing on top of Ochiko as they're getting the blood transfusion. Sort of soft idea that this story is over, but that possibly Toga is dead. Now, I normally take notes when I read this. I don't do this in a bulk. I read the chapter, write down notes as I'm reading it, so I can get some of my thoughts out there in an organized form, rather than just throwing something together as ad lib. Now I do ad lib a little bit, of course, but I do try to make notes. And this chapter, it was hard to do that. I just kept reading. It was really well done. The art is amazing. The emotions are well conveyed. The mood is just you can cut it with a knife. It is so thick. It's in a comic form that's still incredible. So I have heard some detractions. I did read some of the comments. I was just curious about how other people are feeling about it, and there were some detractors. We have the typical people who just don't like Toga, which I know people don't like that kind of character, and I understand. She is definitely a female character with a one specific thing that she does, and that's stab people and drink their blood. Typical vampire stuff. But I saw one that was immediate, and I did want to kind of comment. They were talking about how LGBT characters in stories like this, get killed off in a tragic and sad way. And that happens too many times, and Horikoshi should be doing better than that. And I agree to some degree. I agree that, yeah, that trope is terrible. I don't like to see, especially female LGBT characters in fiction, just getting killed off because they are gay. It sucks. Like, it shouldn't be happening. And, if this is the case of this, that sucks too. I really wish that wouldn't happen. But I do want to pull back with a couple just small points myself, just because I am realizing this. This is also heavily implying that we believe that, Toga is queer. Now, she is definitely queer coded. She's definitely not a traditional love, but we sort of imply her sexuality with this. She's not technically a lesbian. We don't really know her sexual preferences. We just know her romantic preferences. You can be ace, but be romantically involved with people. So to say that someone who is, pan-romantic is also pansexual is sort of, applying too much. We don't really know what she does behind closed doors. We just know that she drinks people's blood and becomes them. Again, context be damned. Subtext is kind of obvious. It's supposed to be sexual, but, that's a weird that's an implying, because that's what comics do. We assume things based off of what the text gives us. We kill characters not necessarily by the writer doing it, but by us doing it. It's sort of the reason why One Piece gets a little bit of flack for killing characters off. Spoilers. Pell doesn't die when he gets exploded in Alabasta, but we kill him in our minds because we really can't think of any way for him to survive. Oda does, but Oda doesn't convey that idea to us, so we sort of believe that he is dead purely by the fact that, explosions kill people, and the emotions of the scene sort of lead to him dying. But those are things he's making us believe, but not necessarily telling us the truth. So, same thing goes for here. We are implying her queerness, and that the story is like that in narrative, but that's not necessarily the case. It could be very well that, Toga is just, in love with people, just in love with loving other people, but not necessarily in a sexual manner. But also, there's the other implication that she's dead. Yeah, so also One Piece, there's a scene similar to this, where our heroes, fight and lose a lot of blood, and we have to get blood transfusions. And in one of the comments I actually noticed, I also agree with it, that, so her dying from giving blood makes no sense, because characters don't die when they're giving blood. In the case of One Piece, Luffy was losing consciousness, he was weak, he was losing a whole ton of blood when Jinbei gives him, some of his blood to recover, to make sure he can build his own but not lose any. Toga sutures the wound in this situation and then gives her blood. Now, the reason why people think she's dying is, of course, the imagery of her being lifted free of her burdens, being able to live the way she wants to live. That implies death, but she's treated Ochiko's wounds, and Ochiko was still conscious, meaning she was still had enough blood in her to, function well enough and survive. She was just on the brink of death, and she doesn't need all of Toga's blood to survive. So, as tragic as this seems, it seems to me more to be uplifting. This is Toga being able to express herself with someone who at least, puts, herself in her hands and is able to give herself to somebody. And that is sort of implied with the ending just as much as her dying is, but rather her, holding on to Ochiko at the end seems more like she's embracing at least some kind of help. Again, maybe I'm reading into this a different way. Again, we don't know yet. The series is still going. We could have a post-mortem where we reveal that she's dead, or characters let her die and walk away from her, which would probably drive Ochiko herself to change as well, because I don't think Ochiko wants Toga to die either, or especially through negligence. But Still, it's a comic. I appreciate it. It was well done. Horikoshi did an amazing job with the art and the writing. But again, yeah, poor tropes are poor. I've been rambling on a little bit too long about this, so I'm just gonna end it here. Still, good chapter. And that's going to do it for this week. Long thing here today. A lot of chapters, a lot of good stuff. Some bad-ish. I wouldn't say anything this week is bad, really. Not even Cypher Academy. It's still terrible, but, it's not the worst thing I could have read. Anyway, still, thanks for watching or listening or whatever you want to do. Like, favorite, comment, subscribe, do a little dance. Maybe the Watusi if you fancy. Bye.